If you're just waking up, the madness continues in the New York City area as Zoran Mandani is now the new mayor. Socialist, here he is, coming after Trump. Listen to this.
If anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Woo-wee. You talk about a pendulum swinging. This city is in for a roller coaster ride, and half the residents there are not happy about this. Joining us now, Victoria Churchill, seasoned political reporter for the Daily Mail. Victoria, good morning. Welcome in.
Good morning. Always great to be back on with you.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I've never been, happier or prouder to live in a conservative state before in my life. I could not imagine what these New Yorkers are waking up to up there. How long before we start hearing the loudspeakers in the middle of Manhattan 5 times a day, prayer call? I mean, it's going to turn into Dearborn, Michigan, I think. And where's the money coming from to pay for everything he wants to do?
Well, one of Mamdani's plans is to raise taxes, which is interesting because even liberal media outlets yesterday were talking about how that is something that he cannot do unless he goes to Albany and convinces the state Senate, which is he's currently a member of, and then as well as Governor Kathy Hochul, who has to run for re-election next year in 2026, that those taxes should be raised. So that'll be interesting to see, which way the state of New York goes, whether they will kind of heed the demands of New York City. Mamdani's win is, over 50%. And so he's going to be able to try and go to the state of New York and say, this is what the people in this city want. But Hochul traditionally has been more of a moderate, up until a couple of weeks ago when she actually started campaigning with Mamdani. And it's also interesting to see because I think this fissure that we're going to be witnessing in New York between New York City versus New York State is really indicative of the Democrat Party at large, because you have people that have been branded for most of their careers as more moderate Democrats in Virginia, as well as New Jersey, the 2 former Democrat Congresswomen, Mickey Sherrill, as well as Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, in my home state. They didn't win on a socialism free-for-all kind of platform. Their main messaging, at least from what I heard, was, combating the Trump agenda. Of course, Trump has been cutting the federal government viciously, and a lot of those federal jobs are in Northern Virginia. So it's kind of no surprise that those people went out and vote, that they were angry. They don't have much else to do on their hands, right, if they're furloughed or laid off. This is something that the Trump administration has been doing both since January, when he first came into office, with major cuts to federal agencies, as well as just in the last month. Now, of course, hitting the government shutdown, the longest officially in history. It hit last night at midnight at 36 days, I believe, is that total number. So, it's interesting to see which way the Democrat Party will go, because as Trump himself tried to distance himself from the results, he was like, well, you know what, I wasn't on the ballot. And he does have a fair point there, is that traditionally a lot of Trump voters have been low propensity voters. And so with his name not on the ballot, they have not been motivated, as we saw yesterday, to turn out. And, Democrats basically tried to put him on the ballot in terms of kind of having him be their bogeyman on races all up and down the ballot. And I know, just in my race in Northern Virginia, in my localities, in our House of Delegates races, the Virginia Democrats picked up quite a few seats. And that's because they were branding all of their candidates up and down the ballot as, all of their opponents as kind of Trump acolytes.
Yeah, I got to ask you about Virginia. I used to live in Fairfax myself, and you're right. The Northern Virginia residents there kind of, lean with Washington residents. They're liberal. They're Democrats. But the rest of the state is not. But with the Democrat being the big winner there, Abigail Spanberger, we saw Glenn Youngkin come in there and win it, which was pretty solid. But what do you think really swung it this time around?
Well, definitely those federal jobs. I mean, that is a large part of our workforce, as well as federal jobs, but also federal contractors. So, these are people that, as at least from what I'm seeing, a lot of these people won't actually get back pay because they're not the actual federal employees. They're just contracts that have been either eliminated or paused. And so that money is never going to go back to these companies that these individuals contract through. But, again, I'm definitely interested to see as to what Democrats' messaging will be, because, for example, the law enforcement issue has been huge here in Virginia over the last couple of years. Sandberger, former CIA agent, she had some law enforcement officials doing ads for her. But then Jay Jones, who is the Democrat Attorney General-elect, he had that text message scandal, which I'm sure you guys heard about, even all over in Alabama,
Sure.
where, he said that he wanted to put 2 bullets in the head of his Republican opponent. And now this man is going to be the chief law enforcement officer in Virginia. And so, which way are you going to go? Somebody that wants to kill his opponents, watch their children die in their hands for political gain.
Yeah, you got to ask yourself, why did this guy not pull out? That's pretty aggressive right there. And why would people vote for somebody that posted something like that? I don't get the mindset of these voters on why they're doing this. Is it everything? I hate Trump. I don't care what they're all about, who they are, socialist, want to kill Republican, contenders. Does any of this matter? Does the fact that socialism in New York City has been voted, as something that they want to try there, but has never successfully been anything good for anybody around the globe ever? You look at current socialist countries right now, they're a disaster right now. So do you think this is indicative of the country in the midterms, or do you think this is just, hey, they had a big win where Democrats reside and there's heavy population of libs living?
Well, definitely the latter. And again, it'll be interesting to see which mold the National Democrat Party leans to, whether that is more of the socialist mold or more of the moderate mold. And so, again, I also think it's interesting to point out that I looked at some of the demographic breakdowns, is that Mamdani actually lost the demographic of the poorest New Yorkers. So those are people making under $30,000 a year. I saw somebody online say that Mamdani won the student debt class. So these are your, educated, rich elites, which actually, regardless of how he tried to brand himself as a man of the people, that is who Mamdani is. One of his parents is a college professor, and another one is a media producer, a global film producer. And so, I don't know exactly how he plans to connect with the poorest New Yorkers,
right,
if he has kind of grown up with a silver spoon in his mouth.
100%. The guy's never had a job, and he's talking about, everything's going to be free. Well, maybe it was in your life, in your world. I live among the people. I ride public transportation. Well, okay, great. Who's paying for all this? That's the big question. And his direction when it comes to law enforcement, he's anti-ICE, that's for sure. What's going to happen when they show up in New York City? It's going to get crazy in that city pretty soon. Well, I appreciate you, Victoria Churchill. Thank you so much with the Daily Mail. 7:51 now. Alabama's more.